midnight. No, it's not midnight, I don't think, anywhere. But welcome, welcome. And today we're going to talk about what to do when your life feels out of control, right? Because, and a lot of people feel this way all the time, right? And I'd like to talk about this with some tips that I've learned from my own experience. Again, years in entrepreneurship, right? More than 11 years now, actually, in having done various businesses, with years in the academic world. Although that's a different that's a different set of problems that you face, but also being a human being forever, right? And so it's my favorite time of the week to be with you guys, and we're going to talk about just first of all the mindset, and what happens we when we get into a situation, or our life circumstances just really overwhelm us, and we feel so incredibly anxious, right? Well, I want to introduce a concept, if you haven't already heard of it, called amor fati. Amor fati, it's Latin. AMOR and then FATI, two words. Latin expression. Back in ancient Rome, they had this idea in Stoicism, and if you've heard of Stoicism, of amor fati, right? Love of fate, love of fate. And what does that mean? So understand one thing. What does it not mean? It sounds like it almost sounds like it means just totally submit to fate, totally just submit to whatever your life throws at you, right? I should have my light here. I realize my face is not illuminated enough. Forgot my ring light, but here, amor fati doesn't mean just submit to fate, right? Although it might sound like that. Amor fati, the idea of amor fati is to embrace fate in a different way, to see the reality of the situation. And a lot of other spiritual traditions and philosophical traditions talk about this as well. Seeing the reality, having a clear mind, right? Not having delusions about what is the case, what's in front of us. And then accepting that. Here's kind of the idea, and here's how I interpret it, and how I use this in my everyday life. When we feel that feeling of anxiousness and overwhelm and dread, ask ourselves, is that feeling of anxiousness, of dread, of overwhelm, is that actual feeling productive? Is it getting anything done at the end of the day? Right? Or is it just compounding what already is bad? And there's also this idea in Stoicism, don't suffer twice. Don't suffer don't suffer twice when you can only suffer once. What does that mean? Well, there's a bad thing that happens, right? Or there are bad things that happen. And then what do? You punish yourself. You get anxious, you get overwhelmed, you feel you can't handle it. And I understand that. I do understand that, because it's easier said than done. You just say, okay, control your emotions, have power over your emotions. It's easier said than done, right? We do have the ability over time to get better and better at doing this, at managing, at mastering our emotions, but it does take time, right? But the idea here is you're suffering twice. You're making yourself suffer twice. One, by the actual thing that happens in our lives, and then twice from the anxiety and the feelings of overwhelm. And so what should we do instead? Well, I do have a tool that I'm going to share with you guys that has worked for me, and it's stupidly simple. It's stupidly simple, and it has worked for me again and again and again whenever I have felt overwhelmed. And what do I mean by overwhelmed? You can all relate to me, I'm sure, to what I'm saying. When it rains, it pours, right? Usually it's not just one problem. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a bunch at once, happening all at once, and that's what makes us feel paralyzed sometimes. Fairy Will, welcome. Hi, nice to have you on this live stream. Welcome. So here's what I do. Here's what I always do, and it works for me so well, and I can just bounce back really easily. I can bounce back, because it's all about bouncing back as fast as possible. Feel free to share in the chats, the chat, guys, about experiences you've had. But basically, what I do is take a sheet of paper. It's stupidly simple. Stupidly simple. Take a sheet of paper, and literally a sheet of paper, because it's more visceral. It's more, you can feel it more when you do it on paper. Take a piece of paper, make a column, right? Write a column down there. Write in the left column problems. Write in the right column solutions. And this is actually something that I'm not just making up out of thin air, I'm pulling out of. Yes, it has worked for me in my experience. It has. But this is not just anecdotal. This is actually from a practice in psychology called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and we can use a lot of things from these modalities, spiritual traditions, philosophies to guide us. Take this sheet of paper, have these two columns, problems and solutions, and literally start listing out your problems. What's in the left column? And then I'll tell you what to do from here. What's the benefit, though? What's the benefit of doing this, right? Why list out all your problems? Well, here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem. Out of all those problems that we have, here's the biggest problem. Yeah, well, listen to the whole method, right? For sure, you definitely should try it out. But here's the biggest problem we have. Our problems are all gnawing at us because they're all in our head. They're all in our head. They're not written down anywhere, right? They're not a thing out in reality that we can conquer. They're not a tangible thing. There's this thing floating up in our head that's driving us crazy. And so why that works is it gets it out of our head and it makes it something that we can look at and we can face and that's tangible. And then we can start to go to the other side of this column. So the other side of the column, on the other side of the column, make that column with solutions, list out for each problem, draw a line. And what I do is I draw an arrow. I'll draw an arrow from the problem all the way to probably maybe 2 or 3 potential solutions for each problem. And they might not even be solutions, right? It might not even be full-fledged solutions. Sometimes it's just about what's the next step. What do I do from here, right? Let me give you an example. So some examples. So if I have, if I've been procrastinating on having an important conversation with someone about, and for me in the past it's been like debts for me, right? Debt-free now, debt-free, but I've had bad experiences with debt and overcoming debt. And one of the things that has helped me a lot in that situation is, okay, who do I have to have this tough conversation with? What's going to be what's going to be the content of the conversation? What do I have to say? What do I have to ask? What do I have to do? Who do I have to call, right? So I'll list that out. And maybe even, is it an extra payment in my budget or something? Do I have to budget out something? Do I have to, make an appointment with this person or whatever? And that has been incredibly helpful. What does it do? What does what does it achieve? I'll tell you what it achieves. It achieves the sense of control. It achieves the sense of stability, because how our brain works, and for you guys who are new to me, new to my content, I have a neuroscience background, behavioral science background, philosophy background, so entrepreneurship background as well. Harry, welcome. Yes, thank you. Oh man, I actually, yeah, I have to get on that, Harry. But yeah, feel free to ask anything in this chat. I do have more recommendations, but it will take a little bit. It will take a little bit. But anyway, what I do is, I have a Telegram channel. I do have Telegram. I don't use Telegram that much. I do have Discord though. I have a Discord channel, guys. So feel free to join my Discord. Everybody on here, feel free to join my Discord. Like, if you want to chat more, you want to ask me more questions on a daily basis. I mean, I check that on a daily basis. My Discord. We've got a sizable Discord group. We've got more than 100 people in there so far. So yeah, you can meet all sorts of people, ask all sorts of questions. You don't just have to wait for my lives, right? Or, email me. You can chat with me. I'm on there. I'm on my Discord. So feel free, guys. And the Discord link, you can find the Discord link in any of my video descriptions, by the way. So yeah, and I will continue. So Nameless Book, what we were talking about last time, and welcome back, Nameless Book. What we were talking about last time is creating those columns, right? Left and right. In the left column, we create problems, or we create problems. We list problems, all the problems. In the right column, we list out all the solutions, all potential solutions. What do we do from there? It's not done, right? Because this is where people make the biggest mistake, and where I've made the biggest mistake, right? I told you guys I've been in huge debts, and I've used this to get. I actually have used this to get out of huge debts. I've six-figure debts, guys. Six-figure debts. Six-figure debts. I've used this to solve all sorts of problems in my life. So on the left side, now we go with a few actions. We circle a few of those things on our sheet. All right, what are some of the solutions there? We start to circle them. And what do? We don't we have to make sure we schedule them in. Schedule them in or take action on them right now. So if it's a phone call or it's a text, and that text can be done right now, I text, right? Text right now, right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Right? Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. Do it now. And then for all the other things that cannot be done right away. So I'll give you some examples. So let's say let's say the problem is I'm overwhelmed by whatever. Let's say, just as an example, let's say somebody's a student overwhelmed by schoolwork and stuff like that. Maybe one of the solutions you came up with, possibilities, is have a conversation with XYZ professors or something like that, and figure out ways to work around the content or schedule or whatever, or get extra help. And so from there, that goes in your calendar. Yeah, exactly, Harry. Life went out of my control when I tried to control things which were not in my control, and giving more importance to things that I cannot control. Actually, that is actually a good point. So let me make this point first. Let me finish my point, and I'll get to what you just said, because it's actually quite important. Scheduling it all in, and I highly recommend, if you guys do not use a Google Calendar, use a Google Calendar or any other calendar app. I don't care. You don't have to use Google Calendar, but use Google Calendar or use a calendar app, because when you can take those solutions, those action-oriented items, and you can put them into your calendar, they're there standing in your calendar. You know when you're going to do them. You know when you're going to get them done. Let me tell you something. It gives you so much power. It gives you so much sense of personal power, personal control. And that's really the source of anxiety. If you think about it, what's the source of anxiety? What's the source of depression? There are chemical reasons, yes. But it really all boils down to lack of control. A sense of lack of control. Why do you ever feel down? Right? Why do you ever feel depressed? Why do you ever feel anxious? Think about it. So yeah, I mean, it's all lack of control. And yeah, you were involved in many illegal hacking activities. Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you overcame that. I mean, thank you for sharing your story. It's good to overcome, face things that maybe we've done that have harmed other people, and overcome that. And just to be clear on that point, strength comes from what you can do to influence and contribute to other people. How you can empower other people to be better. It doesn't come from putting people down, right? That's the biggest misconception. And so, Harry, that is a really good realization for you to make, and I think that's a realization you have made. So, trying to control things you can't control, also, that's an important thing to understand. That's a good thing that you bring up, actually. basically, basically, let me see. I don't really nameless book. Don't really procrastinate with my college classes, but I do procrastinate with my hobbies like learning languages. But I end up reading books all day instead of indulging in my hobbies. Well, I mean, then I would ask if well, two things. One thing is, are they really hobbies that you want to engage in the first place? Then it's not necessarily a bad thing that you end up reading books and not indulge in your hobbies. I would just be curious to learn more about why you feel that's a problem. Because if you don't feel that it's a problem, I mean, well, obviously you feel it's a problem. But what do you think is stopping you? I mean, just real talk here. Like, what do you think is stopping you from, pursuing other hobbies? Do you think reading books? Are you using reading books as a form of procrastination? It's possible. It's possible. Um, and yes, success does carry a heavy responsibility. It's true. Um, Yeah, yeah, Harry, this is all really good. Someday I'll do it. So I'm just curious if you're using books and reading as a form of procrastination. I've done things in the past. Because listen, I'm a natural introvert. I'll be straight up. I am not, I force myself to go to parties. I'll tell you, like, this is for real. I force myself to go to parties because I know, I should interact with people. Right? I have lists of friends and stuff like that I make sure I maintain contact with because I know that's my weak spot. I know I'm an introvert, and so like it's something that I don't like to just like be out there and do stuff. Even it's so funny. I used to be in sales, like direct sales, like in your face sales. So I had to get comfortable with that. But the thing is that no, I kind of maybe feel like I know where you're coming from, Nameless Book, because maybe you're like me in a sense that, you would rather do things that are not interacting with people. Maybe I'm way off in what I'm thinking here, but I'd rather do things that don't have to do with interacting with people. It's more in my comfort zone not to interact with people. Right? And yeah. Um, yeah, it might be. It might be. And so, what I've actually done over time is because I know it's not my default. My default is stay at home and just like, or just be by myself at a cafe and like, and also just do intellectual stuff or whatever, or work on a business or something. Right? So that's my default. If I know that's my default, and that's your default, right? And in my case, just speaking from my experience, if I know that's my default, that's the easy thing for me to fall into, then again, I think going back to the Google Calendar or the calendar, I would just start making a calendar, get a calendar down, get a spreadsheet down, because this is literally what I've done. And I've said, um, well, now YouTube business, but I used to do many types of business. I used to do direct sales, Busy Slim. I used to do direct sales. I actually used to run a test prep agency in New York City, like really pretty successful agency. But yeah, don't do that anymore because I love what I do now. But what was I gonna say? So if you're like me, Nameless Book, um, take a spreadsheet. You know, make a list of people you know or you want to be in contact with more, right? And make a point of just reaching out every so often. Say, hey, what have you been up to? I'd love to catch up, right? Um, just put yourself out there. Be comfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Right. So I can't talk today. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And what you want to do is also uh, get that Google Calendar in, right, or up, and schedule times. Actually, put times in there, so you're not going to procrastinate on it. I'm not going to 100% guarantee that this is going to work for you, but it's worth trying out. Um, Put in events in your calendar that are social events, that are hobby events. Force yourself, literally force yourself to get out of your comfort zone and do those things. I will tell you from my experience, once I've done that and I've really forced myself, like every time, for instance, went to a party the other night with, and I didn't want to go, right, naturally, because it's my default to not want to go. But it was one of my good friends. It's one of my good friends who's had the party. And I went over and I said, wow, I had this great conversation with this person, with this person, with this person. And I met some new people. I have like one person that I'm going to go get coffee with next Wednesday, something like that, I think. And then another person who's like, wow, actually he loves talking philosophy. He loves talking science and all that stuff. And wow, okay. So I'm connecting with other people, and basically the moral of the story is every time I don't want to go out and do those things, but every time I do go out and do those things, I'm thankful for it. I end up thanking myself for it. I'm like, wow, that was such a great decision. So there's this, for lack of a better word, animal part of us that doesn't want to do those things, but we got to force ourselves to do those things. Yeah, so task list instead of Google Calendar. Yeah, experiment with things. You might, if you feel like too much of a robot, like, okay, I think I understand what you might mean by feeling like a robot. Like, when you do a Google Calendar, you feel too constricted. Like, oh, I have to schedule every hour of my day, and I have to be, I think it really depends on your perspective. I think it really depends. If it's stuff that you're forced to do, that you're expected to do, that everybody else is telling you put in your calendar, right? Then yeah, it will actually feel you will feel that way maybe. But if it's stuff that you have really decided, okay, this is something I value, this is something that's good for me, this is something I want to get better at, and I want to put in my calendar, then it will work for you better maybe. It's just shifting your mindset about it. Task list. So I will tell you, it might be a good approach for some people. I know for me it's not a good approach, having a task list. I know I used to do that, but do you know what happens with a task list for me? If I make a task list, oh man, I start with maybe 5 things on my list. I cross out 1 or I cross out 2, and then 5 more go on my list. I'm sure you can relate to this. Who can relate to that, right? To-do lists. Okay, and then 5 more. I cross out maybe 1, and 3 more are on my list now, are added to my list. So this list is always growing, and so it doesn't give us a sense. It doesn't give me a sense of progress. And actually, what we need in order to actually be consistent with a habit or something we want to do, we need small feedback, small positive feedback. And the list is not giving us that small positive feedback, because every time we cross something out, it's growing longer, right? The list is growing longer. Or maybe there's that thing on our list which doesn't have a time assigned to it. So of course we're never going to get to it. It's just on our list forever, right? I'm sure you can relate to this. So this is what I do. This actually might help you stick to a Google Calendar more. Okay, interesting. The way I've done it is I place the priority on top, and as long as I got the major tasks done. Okay, see, yeah, different. See, it works differently for different people. I mean, here's the thing. If it's not working for you now, you might want to change something up. If it is working for you pretty well now, then don't change it up. I mean, you have to, it's not one thing that's going to work for everybody. I know that for Google Calendar, the reason it works for me, I'll tell you the reason it really does work for me. That small feedback for myself. You know the check mark emoji? There's a check mark emoji, right? And on my calendar, on my Google Calendar, once I'm done with a task, once I'm done that thing, I actually put the check mark emoji next to it in the task to show that it's done. And I know that's weird, right? It seems like it's weird, but like it's very, for me, it's very satisfying. I put the check mark next to that event and it's done, and then at the end of the day I can see all these check marks and I feel like, wow, I really got a lot done, right? It's just it's silly in a way. It's silly in a way, but it for whatever it's worth, it really it really does work. It works for me. So Nameless Book, you may want to change it up, and feel free to keep coming back to these lives, and yeah, it is. And feel free, Nameless Book, to hop in our Discord chat. I'm always around, and if you want to chat with other members, you want to chat with me, you have some ideas to share, that's, the kind of community we want to build here. So, Fly Just, hey, welcome. First time here, and you're very welcome. We were just talking about strategies for productivity, but we started out the conversation with solution, how to be more in control, right? When we don't feel in control, we feel overwhelmed. And then a lot of people are feeling that way these days, all right? A lot of people are struggling, okay? So, and, in a very real way, we need each other. Like, people need each other. I want to tell you something very interesting. We all think, we have a cynical view of human nature sometimes, and it's fair to say that, because look at all the bad stuff that happens. Look at all the bad stuff that has happened in history, right? But at the same time, humans, it is a fact. Well, it's a strong hypothesis that one of the reasons humans have survived out of all the hominids, out of all of the other humans that have existed in our evolutionary past, one of the reasons we have survived is because we have unique ability to cooperate. We do. It's a fact. We are uniquely cooperative. Now, there are things that tear us apart. D. Hertzfeld. Okay. I do not know, and I'm not sure I want to address that question, but not sure if you're serious or whatever, but yeah, if you were distracted enough, but maybe. But yeah, so just remember that. Human nature is not, destined that we're here to tear each other apart, right? It's not destined that we're here to live a miserable life. I think a lot of people think that. It's not destiny. We can go both ways. That's the thing about it. We can go both ways. We have that potential. I'm not here to say human nature is perfect. We're perfectly good beings and whatever. That's not true either. We have the potential for tremendous evil. We also have the potential for tremendous good, though. So that's important to note. So I have really enjoyed hanging out with you guys as usual. Guys, we just launched the Dream Life System. It's a new course that I have. Feel free to check it out in my profile, the link in my profile. You can take a look at that and sign up if you're interested. Looking forward to working with you. If so, Nameless Book, I'm lazy. I sleep for 10 hours and wake up. I work so hard. Yeah, unless I have work, my schedule is completely different. Yeah, I hear you. Well, you know what? Feel free to chat me up in the Discord channel. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm with you and think of maybe some solutions together, because yeah, that is a challenge. I've been there too, so not easy. But thanks guys for signing on with me today. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. I will see you. Check out my content, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I will see you next week.